I'm gonna need more SD cards. Hey, I'm Gareth from Park Cameras, and today we've got something a little bit different to what we normally do. So normally our videos are about one camera or one lens, or at most kind of a camera and lens kind of kit, or a couple of lenses within the same range, but not today. We've got something a little bit extra. So we reached out to Sony to see if we could borrow some lenses and maybe some cameras to make some content around kind of using their native system, so keeping everything Sony lenses with Sony bodies, rather than using adapters and stuff like that. Because a lot of people used to use EF adapters and things like that so they could use other lenses. That was when there weren't maybe so many lenses within the ecosystem, but now there's so many, there's so much to choose from. Sony's been around now as an established camera brand with the mirrorless system and the alpha system for long enough that there's a lot to look at. So Sony sent us some stuff. They actually over-delivered. Sony sent us 27 lenses, and that includes a 1.4x converter or a fisheye converter. We've got a whole load of lenses. They sent us 3 camera bodies with the A9, the A7 III, which we're filming on right now, and the A7R III. So we're gonna try out as many different types of photography as I can think of. I've made a list, so we're gonna go through macro, landscape, portrait, street photography, wildlife, astro, low light, sunset, all kinds of stuff. We're gonna try and get everything that I can think of, plus shoot a bunch of video, because of course Sony stuff is great for video as well. It's what I shoot most of my videos on now, is a Sony A7 III. We've got the G Master lenses, we've got G lenses, we've got everything here. So let's start off with macro photography, because that's an interesting one that I don't get to do that often. So let's start off with some macro photography. Let's B-roll our way over to doing that now. Okay, we're shooting macro photography now. So I've got these roses behind me, which make for a great subject for macro photography. I've got the nice red roses, which I'm using the 90mm G lens. Now, this is an f2.8 lens. I'm not actually shooting at f2.8, it's quite a bright day anyway, so I'm using f8, and that's allowing me to get a nice deep depth of field, so I'm getting all the roses. I've actually been really surprised by how easy it's been to shoot handheld, but with the optical stabilization in the lens, it has been a breeze. I haven't even had to use too high of a shutter speed, so I'm on 1/320th of a second, and it's been absolutely fine. I'm shooting the roses now, but I'm also going to head inside in a moment to take a macro shot of my dog's nose. I think that'll make a pretty good subject, and it's obviously quite a bit darker in there, so I can obviously use a larger aperture, as I won't need such a deep depth of field. But the great thing about the Sony cameras is just how well they handle higher ISO values. So I'm going to pump that up and we'll see how we go. Now that we've shot the macro, we've got the nice pictures of roses, nice pictures of my dog's nose and all that sort of stuff, we're gonna go shoot some wildlife. I know a great spot for birds and things like that. They're almost guaranteed to be down there. So let's go and do that. We've got the 100-400 G Master, we've got the 70-200 G Master, we've got the 1.4x converter as well. So let's head out and do that.
Cool down when I'm all alone. I let it go. Talk over the radio. Think fast, but we're moving slow. It's what we know. If you're coming over, I just wanna be real with somebody. Somebody like me. If I tell you how I'm feeling, would you say that you want me? That you want me?
So we've come down to this lake where there's loads of wildlife, there's loads of birds flying about. You can probably hear them on the mic actually. Because it's a great spot for wildlife shooting. You're almost guaranteed to get something. The setup we've got at the moment is the Sony A9 as the camera body with the 100-400 G Master with the 1.4x converter as well. So it's essentially a 140-560. Now, this has got optical stabilization on there as well. Of course, we've got the stabilization in the camera. So far, just having a little bit of a play, I have been shocked by how easy it is to shoot handheld with this, considering the focal length. I've used kind of 600mm before, which are a nightmare unless you've got a tripod, because the slightest shake, it's all over the place. So this is amazing to be able to shoot completely handheld. The G Master kind of quality of it is nice as well, because it's nice and sturdy, the lens. It's not ridiculously heavy either. It's totally doable. But the image quality looks really nice. And of course, the A9 autofocus has been particularly handy. It's just lightning quick. Just snap straight on, it's able to track and stuff like that. So this has been really nice. We're gonna take some photos. I saw some swans earlier with some little babies, but they're not so little actually, they've grown up a little bit. So we're gonna hopefully get some photos of them. Otherwise we've got seagulls, ducks, the kind of normal stuff, but hopefully we'll find something a little bit more interesting. I know there's a heron somewhere around here. So hopefully we'll find something interesting. We'll have to see, we'll have to wait and see. But that's part of the fun about wildlife, is kind of just sitting and waiting. You know, patience. So I always enjoy it, this spot. It's a really nice spot to shoot in. So we'll just wait and see what happens. It's amazing how fast the autofocus is, and then it just tracks the ducks as they're swimming along. Oh, here comes the swan. Let's grab her. It's just so fast, the autofocus, but also just, it's able to just take shot. I might put it on continuous actually, because it's super fast for that, so just need something to happen. There were some coots kind of running across the water. That makes for an awesome shot, but they have, as soon as we set up, they've gone. They've just disappeared, so that's a shame. And ducks are cool. I love ducks, but they're not the most interesting shot. Maybe that's unfair to ducks. So we've been shooting down here for a couple of hours. We've got a few things. We've got the swans with their babies, got some ducks, seagulls and things like that. We didn't manage to get any of the birds kind of running across the water like they do, which is really cool. We didn't also get the heron either, which is a shame because he just didn't come out. But I think we got some cool stuff. I think we managed to show off that lens and the camera, and honestly, shooting handheld, 100 to 400 with the 1.4 times converter on the A9, that was a dream. It wasn't too heavy, and it was just super stable. I was able to shoot handheld video, which I'll pop up now, of some of the birds kind of moving through the water. That was super impressive being able to do that. And obviously shooting handheld shots as well. I was really impressed. I didn't even have to use that high of a shutter speed either. So that was all in all an extremely pleasant shooting experience. And ideally we'd sit here for kind of hours, maybe bring some lunch down and just have a whole day sat by the lake waiting for that perfect moment. But we've got other stuff to do. We've got other lenses to try out. So we're gonna move on to town now, where we're gonna go shoot maybe some street, certainly some more video, maybe some portrait, who knows. We're gonna shoot a bunch of stuff. We've got loads more lenses to use. So let's head down there. Now, in fact, let's B-roll sequence our way down there. So we're at the Wish Tower on Eastbourne seafront now. There's these really nice flowers. There's actually a demolition in progress behind us, but we won't worry about that. We've got the nice flowers here. The sun is still pretty high up in the sky actually, so we've got loads of time, but we're gonna do some nice portraits. I've got the A7R III here with the 50mm f1.4. That's a really, really nice lens, but I'm also gonna try out the 50mm f1.8 because that's a really reasonably priced lens. And actually it's important to test that out as well, because that's essentially the nifty 50 for the Sony cameras. So we're gonna test out, see how that looks as well, especially considering we're testing out the 51.4. We've also got the 85mm G Master, which is an f1.4 as well, that's my personal favorite of these Sony lenses to shoot with for portrait. It is so nice, and the images look lovely. So we're going to use that, but I've also got the 135mm G Master and the 100 2.8. So there's loads of stuff. We're going to try a few different shots. We're going to see what works, see what doesn't, and kind of just see how we get on. So we can do a little bit of video, but we're mostly going to do portrait shoots here before moving on to some street a little bit further in, And then as the sun starts coming down, we'll do some landscape shots as well. So let's crack on.
High dive in the indigo, cool down when I'm all alone. I let it go. Talk over the radio, think fast but we're moving slow. It's what we know.
The really nice thing about the 50mm f1.4 is that with the sun still pretty high in the sky, I'm able to get really nice bokeh at shooting at f1.4, but I'm also able to kind of bounce that light around a little bit. So I'm getting relatively harsh shadows, but that I think actually looks quite good. And I'm gonna try in a second, we're gonna try kind of a backlit look as well. Yeah, that's really nice. So with the sun in the back of the shot, kind of giving a hair light, the lens isn't struggling at all actually. There's no flaring. It just looks really, really nice. So let's try out the 51.8. So we're using the 50mm f1.8, so like the essentially the nifty 50 of the Sony range. I'm actually really surprised by how well the shots are coming out. So the bokeh, at least on the back of the screen on the camera, and you'll probably be able to see better than I can at the moment, until I get back and look and post. But the bokeh looks really nice. And it's not struggling with the harsh sunlight either. The colors look good. Yeah, really impressed. It's also really light. I mean, this totally doesn't feel like a heavy system at all. This is a very easy hand-holdable system. So, considering the price of this lens, this is very impressive.
When you're logging on, if you're coming over, I just wanna be real with somebody.
Okay, so we've got the 85mm f1.4 G Master lens on the front of the A7R III here. This is an awesome portrait setup. It's actually an awesome wedding setup as well, but obviously I'm not shooting a wedding for this video, so portraits it is, but this is my favorite Sony lens to shoot portraits with. It just looks great. G Master is such good quality. You can feel it when you pick up the lens. There's a bit of weight to it. I personally like that. You've got the aperture ring on there. Oh, it's just lovely. I've got it clicked on at the moment, but I might shoot some video with it in a bit. I'll click it off. It's just a really nice setup. So I'm going to shoot some portraits. I already know how they're going to turn out because I've used this lens many, many times. But it's still a really nice lens to shoot with. So definitely a killer portrait lens. So we headed down to the seafront to shoot some landscape. It was way too windy down there to record audio, so I'm recording this after, but the conditions were great for shooting some long exposure. The 16-35 G Master lens was absolutely perfect for having the versatility of a zoom lens, but still getting the optical quality of a G Master. It was absolutely outstanding. I also tried out the 35mm f1.4 for some similar shots and a tiny little time lapse, which we had to cut short as the water was starting to get a little bit too high. Now with a bit of colour in the sky, I was also able to use the 24mm G Master lens for a nice bit of landscape, and switching over to the 24-70 G Master let me punch in to really highlight the lighthouse in the landscape. A lot of options here for shooting landscape.
Let it go. I'll get used to this. Sting of the salt on my broken skin.
Okay, so one of the things with Sony stuff is they're really good for video. So we've come out, I want to shoot a whole thing. So we've done a bunch of photography, we've been shooting various places, various different lenses. So I've got a few lenses now to shoot video with. I've got the 24-70 on the front of the A7 III here. So that's the G Master lens, the 24-70 G Master, which is probably my favorite lens to shoot with. I've got the 35 1.4, which is a lovely lens, and I'm really excited to shoot video with that as well. That's a great focal length for shooting video. And for the 85 1.4 as well, for some of those really cinematic, bokeh-licious kind of shots as well. And I think that's it. I think I've got the 16-35 as well. I've got the 16-35 G Master, which is going to be a great one for those wider kind of establishing shots. So, if you've seen any of my other videos, you might know I like to shoot kind of cinematic B-roll-y kind of stuff. That's what we're going to do. We're going to shoot a whole thing. Let's go. So to finish off the day, we managed to shoot a couple of nice sunset shots with the 16-35 G Master and the 24-70 G Master before heading off to shoot some astrophotography. Now up on Beachy Head, it's nice and dark. So a couple of hours after the sun went down, we took the 24mm G Master lens with the A7 III up there to try it out for some star shots. Now this is a 1.4 lens, so it's perfect for shooting the stars. And even though the sun had gone down a couple of hours earlier and it was pitch black for us, shooting it with a longer exposure gave us these incredible colors in the sky. I was genuinely quite shocked by how awesome they looked, and that was on the back of the camera. And that carried on for the whole time we were there. That 24mm G Master lens is so perfect for getting those star shots, especially a landscape with a starry night. I was shooting at f1.4 for these shots with a shutter speed of either 10 or 15 seconds and alternating between ISO 800 and 1600, and I am really happy with the results. It has been an absolute pleasure trying out all of these Sony lenses with the different cameras. I think it's probably safe to say there's more than enough to satisfy any need, and when you keep it all native, everything just works perfectly together. Seeing it all laid out on the table really shows how far we've come from the days when people would say there weren't any lenses for the Sony cameras. Now, if you want any more info about any of the gear we were using or any of the shots in the video, pop a comment down below. I'd also love to know if you have a favorite Sony lens. Mine is probably the 24-70 G Master. I think I've mentioned that probably a dozen times by this point. If you like the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up as well. That always helps us out. Subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next video. And as always, thanks for watching.